Rewilding Pawpaw in Michigan, making peace with deer and privet. Hello, I'm Connie Barlow. Today is May 11th, 2026, and this is the first episode in my 2026 series of videos pertaining to a series that I started back in 2021 on ecological survey of pawpaw in Michigan. I'm pausing here because in the editing process, I decided to split this video into two parts. This is part B, but the first 20 minutes, part A, became an introduction to the full series, and that had lots of background information, story, photo overlays, and more. So if you haven't watched the introduction already, then do stop here. Scroll down to the YouTube caption, and right at the top you'll find how to click on the introductory video. Then return here, and you'll continue with my introduction to what it's like dealing with a non-native privet plant, if one isn't looking for a way to make peace with it. And when the Within Forest video segments begin here, right away you'll see an example of how I'm trying to make peace with an overpopulation of deer in my neighborhood of Ypsilanti, Michigan. Now, speaking of privet, I'm very used to privet. I was helping a friend of mine who has a conservation easement with the Nature Conservancy. It's a really important conservation easement on her private forested land in northeast Alabama. And my husband and I would stay there often in our van, and a number of times we would be pulling privet. And that is where the privet was enormously invading, mostly from flooding water carrying the fruit. I call them berries. They're not exactly berries, but they're spread by birds, but they're also spread by flooding water. And so I will, at the very end of this video, I will put in an epilogue. And there, I just found this morning, back in March of 2018, so that's exactly 8 years ago. It's May right now, but exactly 8 years ago, my husband and I were using what's called a puller bear, made in Canada, puller bear for pulling privet, the kind that are just too dug in to be able to pull out by hand. And what you'll see in that video is that privet can get enormously huge and tall. Nothing that bad in the riverside area that I work in. And in fact, what's interesting, at the ROUGE River site that I visited also, that has one pawpaw patch but could use a lot more. ROUGE Park, end of April 2026. There's another pawpaw here, pawpaw. This is the oldest set that I've seen here. And here we are right along the river. And look at, these are pawpaw flowers right here over the river. There's no privet there, none at all. But there is AMUR honeysuckle, the other large subcanopy woody invasive that shades out our native herbs. This is the baby AMUR honeysuckle all through here. And deer, if it's overpopulated deer, such as the bottomland that I plant into along the Huron River, this is the ROUGE River, there's so many deer that there are no baby AMUR honeysuckle. The deer eat them all. First leaves to come out in the spring. But here's another big one. So let's get the video started now. Well, look who I found at the Old End Trail. Marked by 2 rocks. There used to be 5 here. There's 4 stems that I can see nearby. One is over here. There's another one down here somewhere that has some greenery, another one there, but a total of 4 right in that area. And I don't know, about a week ago, maybe 10 days ago, I had placed these 2 here because even though this was the old hen trail right here, the deer have made it a new trail going back through here and then around over to there, out to the big hackberry. So, in fact, you can see a lot of deer tracks here. So I moved these 2 sticks over because the pawpaws are all on this side, and fortunately this is still here, still alive. You can see box elder sprouts coming out, and this limb here is still alive too. This is what box elder does. You can see out here growing up and then right along there. Box elder basically leans over and then keeps growing. It's got one going right up through there. Yeah. Okay, Morel. Well, I'm not going to be taking you, but I did see over here 1, 2, 3. So I might take those 3, and then over here, this is the butternut tree here. Over beyond this one, Lonicera, AMUR honeysuckle with a big lignotuber down there. There are 2 morels there, so I might leave those just to get a taste of spring, sautéed in butter. All right, so this is looking back the trail where I came. Here's the big walnut. I saw a couple stems in here. Everybody's had their top eaten off, but they'll come back. We'll see some more. And I saw just 1 down here. There's usually 5 or 6, but we'll see. Here's one of the big walnuts. And this one is near a place that was, I think, the first patch that I actually weeded last year and planted en masse. This one right here. So I called it patch 1. And looking closely, I see back in this area, I think I saw maybe 15 stems of the pawpaws. Every single one of them had been nipped off at the top or even fairly low down, and some have green leaves, little tiny ones showing growing. The only one I found thus far that hasn't had its top nipped off is there are about 3 back here, and there's one here that I can see close up has a green leaf coming out of its tip. So this prevented deer from getting down to that. Okay, so I came in from here. There's the butternut. This is where I found the 3 morels and the oldest plantings of all back in there. April 27th, 2026. This is an entirely new area I discovered last November, December. Deer trail through here. I kind of made it better through there. Goes by a big butternut back there, and then out to patch 1.5, and the river is over in that direction. But this is the big walnut here, and you can see all the walnuts down here left by squirrel harvesting, all well eaten down here. And you can see that there's quite a trail through here that the deer and I take, and basically goes back over to the ephemeral swamp, ephemeral pool. And here's a couple of skunk cabbages, and there's the waters of the ephemeral pool back there now. So this appears to be high enough, because here's a cherry here, and again the walnut, and of course AMUR honeysuckle in here, and quite a few through there as well. But I decided to take this area here and plant here today, because look at all these fallen trees. A bit of the top of the walnut here has fallen. It was probably taken down by falling ash here, and then the rest of the walnut over in that area there. But what I planted here were, over the top of this and in this area, 10 ungerminated seeds. And then in this area in here, 20 ungerminated seeds, so that's a total of 30 there. And then I came over through here. You can see all the sunlight in here. Walked over here. I recommend climbing over these two, because even though I went through here the first time, I saw a queen bumblebee going behind that bark there. So, but you can see that there used to be, and maybe still, some deer come through here. But the very first thing I did was I went back there into that area, and I had 13 germinated pawpaw seeds, not from the 2025 harvest, but from the 2024 harvest last year. So it went, in my refrigerator, it went through 2 winter stratifications. So 13 germinated back there, and then closer here would have been the remaining 70 of the 100 non-germinated that I brought out. A number back over in there, in here, some over here, quite a few over in there. This center walkway area, center through here, I did not plant anything, so I'll be able to walk through there and look around. But basically just one at a time in each place, usually about a foot apart or more. And so back in this area here, 70, 13 in the far, and then turning around over here, 20 there, and then 10 over in there. And then again, here's a look at the trail going into the ephemeral pool. And here's the look up. You can see the AMUR honeysuckle is all leafed out. That's the cherry that's leafing out there. But the walnuts, we've got a number of walnuts and butternut back here, not leafed out yet. That would certainly be a walnut in there. And you can see still quite a bit. But boy, these Laniceras get pretty darn tall. Look at that. Quite a few through here. Quite a few. And from a distance, I've seen this white bucket a number of times. I just came from back there I don't know, maybe 100 feet or so. So I decided to walk back and check it out. And this used to be an encampment. We used to have more homeless people camping here until I think the freight house was open to them. You can see a knife holster, no knife, some kind of a tarp here, liquor bottle back in there. And there's an ephemeral pool right in there, which is, there's the hackberry I go to. That's the first of the hackberries, and my far trail planting is over in there. And as I turn around here, oh gosh, this is a big box elder. Look at that. You can see the growths coming out wherever it can get photosynthesis low down. And then over this way, there's more water in this area. So this here feels a little low to me, even though there is Lonicera here. But this is also just completely full of deer hangout. It may be that this is one of their chosen places to sleep. So I'm just going to leave these materials here, and I'm going to head back and look for a little bit higher ground in this new area. So there's the bucket I was by, and I'm heading back here into my established territory. And you can see how the ground here is not full of just deer prints and taking it down to the black soil. This is a walnut here, and wherever walnuts can grow, that's high enough ground for pawpaws to go. And this area has quite a bit of grass around it here. I may choose next time I come out here, you can see this is an established deer trail that I came through. But this downed area in here with all this material down and good green vegetation here, I think I'm going to also plant here. And this year I'm just not going to do the patch technique. I've got about 3,000 total seeds that I carried through the winter. Well, 3,400, but yesterday a friend and I planted some along the ROUGE River, about 360. So, yeah, I think I will come here. This will be good. This will be good. Walnut right behind me, and oh yeah, look at looks like that. I don't know what kind of tree that is, but it lost its top. Could be a walnut, the one back there. All right, let's continue. And in fact, you can really see the trail here. Continue back to the trail. Oh yeah, this is good. And there's the big walnut, and that area back there, you can see that it's got some sun in that area. That's where all the tree fall was, where I planted 100 ungerminated seeds plus 13 germinated. So I did collect 4 of the 6 Morel mushrooms that I saw at the old End Trail patch. When I sliced them in half, the insides were bug-free. No washing necessary. Sautéed in butter, what a gift. May 3rd, 5 days later, and this giant Morel is still here. Got another view of it, taking it from the opposite side, a picture. And of course, I will be leaving it alone. But I also want to show a new one that came up here. This is a big one. And I'll be leaving that one alone too. There's also, I saw the small one that was out by this AMUR honeysuckle that's got the huge lignotuber. Oh yeah, there you can see it. It was small and it's gotten bigger. May 3rd, 2026. And here's the patch 1.5 in here. The main trail goes through this way. The river's over there. Downstream is this way. The end trail is over here. And upstream is this way. And this is the area that I opened up last fall, winter, so that I could walk through it. And the deer have been continuing it. Here I put my pack right here, and where I'm standing, there's a really lovely Lonicera there, grapevine here, but where I'm standing is by the big butternut. And then right there, you can see the trail continues. There's my stick. And what I did when I was here 5 days ago, I planted in 2 sites, but then I came here, and this is the first time I've actually sawed out some tall privet. You can see this area here. I sawed out this area down in here, and then also this area of privet down in there. And you can see I then laid the privet in places through here where the deer will not be tempted to just create a trail and go through here. And then put some all the way over into there also to be able to prevent them from heading this way here. So what I did today is along the route I gathered some things, debris that I found on the ground, because I don't want the deer to sleep here. So here you can see what I've put in. Oh, and here's a really nice grapevine here. Here's the walkway into it, right there. And so you can see I've put on the ground here in order to prevent a deer from sleeping in this area. And then I'm going to be planting in this part through in here, over here, down into there. I might put a few back there, but it's pretty shady. And all around here, in here. And then I'm leaving this place here. If a deer really does want to sleep here, they could sleep here. I'm willing to share with them. Okay. So I'm going to start planting. What I have are a total of 50 germinated seeds. And most of them are from last year, the 2024 harvest, not the 2025 harvest, that simply didn't germinate at all. All right, time to plant. I just planted 40 of the 50 germinated seeds I brought with me back in this area here that I had cleared out 5 days ago. And give a little overview of where some of them are. There's a couple in here, couple over in that area there. And I planted absolutely nothing where I'm walking right now, where I'm inviting a deer, if they want to, they can come into this area here, okay? So there's my pack and everything out there. I do have over here 1, 2, 3. Another one in there. I've got 4 back in this area here. Not here in case this turns into a trail, but 4 back in there. Another 4 in this area here. A couple in front of the privet that I'll have to keep pruned back. Over here, you can kind of see over here. 3 in here, certainly 1 under there, couple here. I think about 3 back in there, couple back in there, and probably about 6 or 8 back in that area there. And again, here's the other big privet that I trimmed, and you can see a couple places here. But right here, deer can sleep here if it wants, or just hang out there. And just leave the other area alone. So back out at the trail. Now this grapevine is alive, and so it will remain. Obviously these things at some point will keel over as they're raised, but I'll be watching. And also Pawpaw has the ability to bend very well, so we shall see what happens. A total of 40 seeds in here, May 3rd, 2026. Lonicera is fully leafed out around here, as is the privet. Okay, I just came from that direction there. That's downstream. That's where I planted a new patch that was back inland from the patch 1.5. So here I am at patch 3. You can see it's got a big walnut going up there and some low lonicera around here, and then another walnut there, and travels on. But this is patch 3, and you can see some rocks here because it was 2 or 3 years ago that I planted Pawpaw here. Here's one right here. It was bit down, but it's coming back. And here's another rock over here, and this one here. That one's coming back. And then there's quite a few. You see there's a rock here, there's a large one here, but these were all put in rather early, I think end of June. I put all of these in last year, and deer haven't been stepping on them. So this is a good spot. And I also had put in 4 from one of the buttermilk containers that I was germinating indoors and raising by the window and getting a lot of morning sun. And I put those in here, and there's a rock or two, but I'm not sure if anything made it through because this is kind of a trail. And also what I noticed last year is that the sun was out quite a bit on this side of the log. I planted on this side of the log, but the sun was out a lot over here. So I'm going to put the 10 germinated seeds back in this area, and you can see all the greenery here. So there really is some sun that gets through. Slight change in plans. Okay, so Here is the place where I had 4 planted, and I think 2 or 3 survived through the end of the fall, but I can't really see anything now. But as I came over here to check things out, no, I did not dig this spot, but it's an incredible rodent hole in there. So I have to stay away from rodent holes. Here's a closer look at the rodent hole. But so I certainly didn't plant any in here, and I thought that maybe this was far enough away. 1, 2, 3 here. You can see that this possibly could be a deer trail, but they really don't, you can see with the vegetation, they don't seem to use it. Too many fallen branches there, probably. So of the 10, I planted 3 there. And then over here, I planted 1, 2, 3, 4. And then over here, so let's see, so that's 7. And then planted here 8, 9, 10. And I did pull up in here, I pulled up a couple privets, but only just enough so that there isn't root competition right away, because I don't want to have this be a real obvious site for a deer to check out and wonder what's going on. Okay, so that's the end of planting the germinated seeds. And again, there's the lovely walnut. Here we have a lonicera right over us here, but with all this vegetation and a large privet here, you can see that there is sun that comes in here, and also garlic mustard. Okay. May 3rd. I've been out here about 4 hours, planted the 50 germinated seeds, scouted some areas where I'm definitely planting some more upstream the river, where I'm going to plant some more seeds this spring before the mosquitoes come out. But I'm stopping here because right to the right of where my pack is I just dug out the 1,500 seeds, the last increment from Mark Boone's Pawpaw orchard southwest of Ann Arbor, and easy to hit the aluminum pie tin, and then further down into the mosquito net to the point where I could pull the whole thing out, get it into a large bag, and stuff that into my blue pack there. And only 2 pawpaw seeds had fallen out, so that's my strategy henceforth. Always use mosquito net. All right, time to leave. It's been a beautiful day. Polar vortex made it cooler than usual, but perfect for what I've been doing. May 6, 2026, I'm Connie Barlow, and I'm standing in the pawpaw patch I planted last year that I called 3C. It was near 3, and there's A, 3A, 3B, 3C, and it's fairly well inland off the trail. But what marks it is that here's a dead ash tree that got me to thinking, hey, there's going to be sun here, I'll plant here. And so I planted a patch. It's right along the edge there, and unfortunately I think a deer spent a lot of time laying down there. I found deer poop. There might not be much left of my initial planting at 3C. But what happened last winter is just above the top that you can see there, the whole thing crashed off in this side. Right here, right here. And so that meant this whole area opened up. And whenever you see greenery like this, and yet not growing tall, you know it's recently been opened up. So it's perfect for me to pull privet and so forth. So I decided to go and explore back here, and I'll show you the patches that I put in. But what happened is that when then I continued on and I took a look at what's been going on at patch 6 that I also planted last year, I found out that patch 6 is only about 50 feet that way. I had no idea they were this close together. But that's because the big ash tree that I had planted patch 6 by, I had no idea it was dead. Well, it was dead and the whole huge branch came off. And so it opened up a lot of area and enticed me to walk through, and here I came to here. So I'm going to show you what I planted today, May 6th, of 200 ungerminated seeds I brought with me, along with 33 germinated that I haven't planted yet. But the 200, this came from the Mark Boone orchard when my brother and I collected there. And then over winter it spent in the soil. So this is the soil component of that, not the refrigerator component. So anyway, I'm going to show you each of the patches here, and then I'm going to walk over around, because it's easier to get there around, to patch 6, and I'll show you what I've done over there. One more thing, I decided that rather than going around over to patch 6 through the AMUR honeysuckle shaded area there and then this way, I decided to just show you what's going on with patch 3C by this dead ash with its branch gone, and then actually walk back, going over branches and so forth, back to show you what patch 6 looks like now when its own giant branch had fallen. And that branch had fallen from this tree that's still tall, but it's a dead ash. And look at all the AMUR honeysuckle here, just all filled out. When the walnuts, maples have come out, elms are starting, but and then look how shady it is in here. This is where I wouldn't even bother to try to plant. I'd have to cut down the AMUR honeysuckle, and they're just bigger than the privet. It's easier for me to pull privet and then saw the larger ones. Standing at the patch 3C dead ash tree, you can see that here where I planted, you see a lot of deer having scuffed it up here. So maybe nothing that I planted will make it through. But as I go up, there you can see the top. And as I move over here, this is what I didn't know was dead, but it's a huge ash tree that was dead that gave me the insight for planting over on the other side right in here. And then last fall, winter, down came the huge branch that you can see over at the left. It happened to go this way, and so that's where patch 6 had been planted. A lot of sun. You can see all the sun opening in here. Okay, so let's take a look. This is what came down from patch 3C dead ash, and what you can see here are 1, 2 little patches in the privet that I pulled, and these each have 5 seeds put into them. This area here is I just used for navigating and stepping on. So I'm going to cross over into there now. All right, I'm in that area here. You can see the 2 little patches. And again, the sun, what are we now? It must be about 12:30. I don't know, maybe 1. And the sun is directly over here, and the river is off in that direction, and the main trail is off over there too. So here you can see what happened. And when you see growth this green, you know it's a great place to plant. And so last year I did big patches, and I only did one big patch here. Again, I'm just using this area for walking on. But this is where I planted 44 in here. And this is by an elm, and the elm is alive. So you can see what attracted me here is that there's just no way a deer is going to try to walk through any of this area here. You just can't get through to anywhere interesting by trying to come through here. It just doesn't work. You've got much better trail just a short ways over in that direction. Okay, so I put in 4 other patches, just pulled privet and some of the other, I don't know if this is nettle or false nettle. It does prickle me some, but it's so young, maybe it's incapable. But you can see a patch there, got another patch there, another patch here, and one right here off just this side here, because this is where I walked through to be able to plant. And so I will do that again. And this is where it became clear that this is patch 6 over here. Okay, so this is the large branch that fell off of this very large, dead actually. The greenery you see up there is poison ivy, but it's dead, and this fell off last fall, winter. And this fallen part was already down, which is why I planted in this area window-grown pot of 5 pawpaws, plus a few more seeds, because it looked like a deer wouldn't come in there. Well, it turned out the deer did eat some, but they're growing back this spring. So what I did today is I put in 6 patches of 5, just like I did over there. See, one there, one there, one there, one there, and one here. This is kind of a large patch. And then, but you can see, even though the deer had tried to make it into a deer trail last summer, as soon as I put in the seeds, boom, when this large branch came down, it closed off. No deer is coming through here anymore. So this is a really lovely open area that the deer simply are not going to, they might get curious and come and eat here, but they're not going to be walking through or spending time. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Oh, and that's a large cherry there, straight ahead. It's a large cherry. There's a lot of walnuts back here too. And you can see the AMUR honeysuckle is all leafed out. The privet just doesn't grow as tall, but the AMUR honeysuckle gets eaten by deer if it's in deer height, and the privet does not. So that's why what you see in here is just a lot of privet that I pulled. Some I left in order to make it less attractive for deer to even bother to come in here at all. Okay. Before I head out, I decided to come back here and take another view of how this area is just impenetrable, really, for deer and so open for sunlight now. So again, 3C is right, you can see where this tree's been topped in here, fallen, and then here's the top of it that fell, and so 3C is in there. I was standing over in this area here to take the initial video, and from here you can see this whole area. I did little patches in, plus a larger patch right in here, and then on the other side of this big log, which was a giant branch, is patch 6. And there you can see how thick the AMUR honeysuckle is over there. And my theory is that it got started before the deer were overpopulated as an invasive. But once the deer became overpopulated, the leaves come out so early in the spring and the deer like to eat them. So that's why you don't see babies of them. At least the babies don't last long. And so the greenery you see in here are the herbaceous species. Poison ivy, of course, is starting to come in places, but just a lot of privet, a lot of baby privet here. Now, when I turned around, I saw this, and look at how damaged this tree is now. This is an elm, and you can see it's not going to survive. The amazing thing about it is it still has some leaves on its branches, still has some. So given that this is in the direction of due south here, and given that that area is full of light that I've planted in, this tree is going to fall, and already it's so few leaves, it's letting in a lot of light, that I'm going to spend time now, and the remaining 96 ungerminated seeds I'm going to plant in patches through here. Now deer will be able to get in here, but you can see there's some places, and if I just put them in little patches, pull a few privet but not a lot, some should be able to survive without the deer going, huh, what's this? So I decided I would put in the final 96 seeds in groups of approximately 5 per patch, such as, okay, over here is where I did the original one. So here, look at the size of this privet in here. And then over on this side here, did a little bit. And you can see kind of the difficulty walking here. There's a patch right in there. Another one there. Another one down there, over there. And again, this is patch 6 back in there with the huge branch fall this past winter. So nothing's coming through. And here you can see the one place where I did a large patch of 44 seeds in there. Okay, and so let's see, no, that's not me. That's some erosional thing. Coming over here. Patch here, patch there. Patch down there. Patch over in there. Patch there, little patch there, patch here. You can see where this area is. And here, looking back to my pack over in there. So this area is not really inviting to deer. A lot of garlic mustard in here, and baby garlic mustard. Not just the flowering kind. Here, I didn't pull this. I left this, kind of keep the deer out. Another patch there. I'm not a real enemy of garlic mustard. It never turns into a shrub, and it needs a lot of sunlight. So I don't regard it as invasive of established forests the way that AMUR honeysuckle and privet are. Okay, so here we have this. And again, here's that big log that's fallen here. Oh, and I should say, when I was exploring a new deer trail that I made a little bit better, there was a log like this, and I watched a pileated woodpecker spending some time looking for things on top of it, and then going up a tree. I've heard them before, but this is the first time I've actually seen a pileated. That is a sign of a good forest. Okay, here's another patch here, another patch there. I think I already showed these in here. But you can just see this is impenetrable. There just isn't going to be a deer absolutely coming through here. Now, beyond here, of course, there will be deer back in here. But look, there's a lot of green back there. So that may be prospects there for continuing with some kind of a decision about how I plant. You see the garlic mustard in here? Now, of course, the garlic mustard, because we've got our walnuts, just take forever to put up their leaves. That garlic mustard, it's like trillium that can get its whole thing done in photosynthesis before the walnuts shade it out. So the greenery will definitely shift after a while. But again, AMUR honeysuckle. All right, so finished with the 200 ungerminated seeds. All right, time to leave. Michael's been able to pull quite a few, but this is the infamous polar bear, and boy does it work well. It was invented, or at least we purchased it from Canada, and it's just amazing what it's capable of doing. Look at that. Privet from Eurasia. Plant I used to really enjoy when I lived in Seattle in the mid-1980s. This was a great hedge. I'd go out pruning it. Didn't escape. But here in northeast Alabama, regrowth forest, a lot of sunlight coming through, end of March 2018. Everything you see back there that's green, that's privet. I've been pulling this out, probably a total of about 15 hours I've worked over the last 10 days just in this area. And behind here, forest over the years, visiting my friend here in northeast Alabama, oh gosh, pulled out a lot from there. But this is one of the invasive plants. Old school conservation, this was pretty much the entirety of what we did in terms of manipulating plants. Now the only reason I'm doing this, instead of just concentrating on assisted migration, climate adaptation for native forest plants, moving them poleward. The reason I'm working on this is one of the few invasive species that I've encountered that actually can thrive in the deep, dark shade of deciduous forests, like we've got just about 1/8 of a mile from here.
Little nature conservancy, as close as you get to old-growth forest here. Liriodendrons, sweet gum, white oak, really gorgeous forest. And the problem that in this sunny regrowth area here, privet just comes in, but it's got a berry that flows down through the creeks. It's distributed by birds, and it's just a real problem in this area. So I'm tackling this invasive plant because it's not just in disturbed areas like garlic mustard in the north, but this can actually invade our old-growth forests, and I don't want that to happen here. However, I'm sure that as our economy keeps going down and as we need more effort for manual labor, even in my older age, for basically growing food or cutting firewood, we're not going to be spending our time doing this anymore. And so if I'm graced to be conscious on my deathbed, what I will be saying is, Privet, you win.
So that's the end of this first video of 2026. Rewilding Pawpaw in Michigan, making peace with the deer and the privet. As always, may the forest be with you.